Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user Why You Gotta Be Like That. Boyfriend 26 male of 1 year forgets me 25 female at party again, flirts with random girl in front of me. He is remorseful, but is this a lost cause? Sorry if this is long, it just happened yesterday and I don't have many friends in my current country to give advice. Yesterday, my boyfriend and I were at a beer festival in my hometown to celebrate the birthday of his friend, among which were friends of his who had visited from out of town. I joined them later as I had some errands to run, so he and his friends were further along in their drinking than I was. That day, my boyfriend was handsy and romantic, repeatedly whispering to me how much he loved me and joking about our future together with children. Of all the guys I've dated, he is the one who has shown the most seriousness about our relationship. It is why I am posting this, because I feel so conflicted. He is someone who rarely likes going to the toilet alone when drinking. He is very social and unfortunately needs to go very frequently once the seal is broken. We went together once and I waited for him outside as I never need long when peeing. I waited on him and we went back together without a problem. About an hour later, we went together again and like before, I waited on him outside. I saw him leave with his two friends who coincidentally were also in the toilet at the same time. I smiled as they walked towards me and then realized they didn't see me at all and continued walking back to the beer tent. I felt unsettled by all of this because how quickly did he forget that we went together when he was the one who paid for my fee to go in? I only had bills and no coins. I followed them back to the tent, walking right behind them. As I walked right behind them, maybe 30 seconds later, he and his friends passed by a fair game stand manned by a young blonde woman. My boyfriend was the only one of the three, the other two are single men as far as I know, to check this woman out and then wave and smile saying hello in a flirtatious manner. A switch flipped inside of me. I caught up to the group and asked him what was that about. If he seriously forgot me at the toilet and had to flirt with a strange woman the first opportunity he had, thinking I wasn't around. He claimed that we never went to the bathroom together and that I was lying. I responded with all the reasons why he was wrong. You paid for me, I stood in front of you, and you didn't see me. He then claimed while trying to hold me back from going to the tent to pick up my belongings that he loved me so much and that the other girls meant nothing. That other girls were nothing for him and that he was just drunk and forgot about me. I retorted that alcohol conveniently made him not only forget I went with him to the toilet, my father is also an alcoholic so I hate the alcohol excuse, but that he was even in a relationship with a girl who even went with him to his friend's birthday. It was this heated back and forth of him swearing other women meant nothing, that he was just drunk, and me telling him that I was breaking up with him and it was over. He cried and begged me to reconsider while I unlocked my bike. At home, I was crying on the staircase of my building when after about 20 minutes later, I heard someone ringing the bell to the building. I recognized him through the frosted glass and told him to F off and leave me alone via text. He begged me to reconsider and said that he loved me. We texted on and off the rest of the night, with the conclusion that I wanted him to give my belongings that were still at his place back, and him saying that he doesn't deserve me, he knows he is a crappy person, but he loves me so much and I am the best he had. But that he wasn't flirting with this blonde girl by saying hello and that he was just being funny and friendly with her. I called him out on his BS and said how he never said hello to young blonde girls whenever the two of us walk around town. This instance for me was cheating. However, this hasn't been the only issue in our relationship. About a month ago, something similar happened at a co-worker's of his party, where after us going to the toilet together, I left the bathroom only to see him gone. He was only 1 beer in, so no excuse about the alcohol. I found him in the kitchen surrounded by 4 of his female co-workers talking about the sheer fruit printed blouse I loaned him to wear to this fruit themed party when one of the co-workers began to stroke his nipple. I called him out on it in the empty hallway and his first response was denying that any nipple stroking took place, before eventually saying it was just a joke and that it meant nothing. I asked if he would have felt the same way at this being just a joke if a male co-worker of mine had stroked my breasts in the middle of a party. He begged me to stay and said he would be a better boyfriend and that this person and all these other girls meant nothing. It was the first time I had seen him or any man cry so much at the thought of losing a partner. I am conflicted. I feel like in the grand scheme of things, this isn't a big deal, but this isn't the first occasion I have felt tossed to the side and witnessed inappropriate behavior with women. At the beginning of our relationship, he was still in touch with an ex-girlfriend who he claimed was still in love with him, and he only blocked her after I had left his apartment after she texted him. He was someone who claimed never to have contact with exes ever, so that explains all the Instagram likes and follows with all his exes. He knew about my cheating ex and made efforts to be transparent with his social media, etc. But after witnessing what I did yesterday, I feel justified about not trusting him. How am I ever supposed to feel comfortable with him partying and drinking with friends if, at the first opportunity of being alone, he needs to flirt with random women? There were other problems before. His friends not inviting me to his surprise birthday party, him not talking about a wedding he was invited to after a year of being together, etc. Am I overreacting in this scenario? Is this something that can be forgiven? He is begging me to reconsider this, but I feel so gutted about yesterday and don't know if I can rekindle any romantic feelings for him, let alone trust. Well, OP, first thing I'm gonna say is I don't know if it is outright cheating, but it is definitely very inappropriate and I consider it a huge red flag. The other thing, can this be forgiven? If you want to and you want to work on it, sure, I think you can, but I wouldn't do it. I just stand my ground like, hey, we're broken up, we're done. Move on, dude. There's zero accountability in blaming alcohol. The thing is that nobody forced him to drink. He went to those parties, he decided to drink that much, so whatever he does after his drinking, it is his responsibility. Of course, there's an excuse if he's like roofied or something. Yeah, that's a whole different case. But if nothing like that happened, then yeah, it's all on him. He did this. And of course, the same logic applies if the roles were reversed. Because at the end of the day, he was flirting with other people, regardless if you were there or not. Then he lied about it. When he couldn't do that anymore, he downplayed it. And when he couldn't do that, he dismissed you. All of those are red flags. So OP, I would not get back together with this person. You were already broken up, so keep it that way. And what do you guys think about this situation? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section. And now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Deleted says, little kids can figure out that if they cry and wail and beg enough, they get their own way. Either he has a serious problem with alcohol and needs to stop drinking completely, or he's just a jerk. Which would you prefer? And OP responds, I brought up the alcohol problem to him, but he denied there being any or refused to acknowledge what I was saying. I guess if your actions under the influence of alcohol only hurt your girlfriend once in a while and not every day, it isn't a problem. Sarcasm. Tomoyopop says, I broke up with my most recent ex because even after a year of dating, he was sending incredibly mixed messages. He couldn't commit. I thought he was the one. His sister insists that he held back from me because he was afraid to hurt me and that he also thinks I'm the one. I don't call complete BS on that, but I do know that he proved himself undependable and indecisive, and that hurt and frustrated me deeply. He lost me because he couldn't grow up enough to decide what he wanted from me, and he's 28, not 20. Basically, what I am saying is, indecision is also a decision. I won't address the alcohol issue, but the bottom line, do you want to be in a relationship where you perpetually love the other person more than they do you and play with your emotions constantly? That's ultimately a decision you have to make yourself. As for me, it's been 4 months since I dumped him and the first 2 months were hard, but I am doing just fine and feeling underburned and excited to go out and meet guys that won't have qualms about committing to me and that won't have trouble acknowledging me publicly as their girlfriend. My ex decided to go a mutual acquaintance of ours that seemed interested in him rather than tell her that I was his girlfriend. How effed up is that? And OP responds, that's what I don't understand in my situation. He swears he isn't interested in other girls and has done more than any other guy I have known to show that he cares. Social media, meeting family, extensive travel together, but it seems like that fundamentally my feelings don't matter as much as his. In the early moments of our relationship, one of his close co-workers introduced himself to me by saying, speak English, Asian slur. I am half Asian, half Caucasian at another beer festival. So under the influence of alcohol, my boyfriend can't stand up for me, but he has the confidence to talk to strange girls? K. Dengle says, is he usually only selfish and flirtatious after he's been to the bathroom? I ask because needing to go to the toilet a lot and outlandish behavior makes me think he's going in there to take drugs. Could this be a possibility? Additional information from OP's comments. I think it is less problematic if he had admitted to it right away and explained that it was just harmless flirting, instead of immediately denying that I had even gone to the toilet with him. I think it's stupid too that he needs a group to go piss like a middle school clique. Or going on to blame the alcohol. His equally drunk single friends were more interested in talking to each other than hollering at girls at the fair. At least admitting it would show me some responsibility for his actions and is for me more respectable than blaming external factors. Alright, well, the community had some decent questions to ask, and OP gave us a little bit more context about his behavior and about that idiotic co-worker of his. Now, after all that, I'm settling even more on that OP should remain broken up with him. So let's move on to the update to see what happened next and how the story ends, but of course before that, you know that here's another one of my playlists for you to enjoy after this video. Now let's move on with that update. A lot of you were asking for an update, so here it is. I apologize in advance for any format and spelling errors since this is from mobile. I am really heartbroken, Reddit, because this is not the outcome I expected out of this. I decided to go with him through a trial period after the incident and before our trip to my hometown, which more or less meant he would work on communicating and try to enjoy our expensive trip together as civilly as possible while I reconsidered our relationship. He promised to quit drinking and to be fully transparent with whatever. The trip wasn't entirely stress-free, but in the end I still had a good time and was happy to be back together, albeit I was wary about doing this. We were back in Germany and things were better. He reassured me many times whenever he went out with friends, regular updates, texted me when he was at home and did not drink when I was with him, and I really felt like the trust was growing again. I was happy. I even met his parents again when they visited and booked tickets to his hometown in France to spend the holidays. It felt like we were stronger than we were before, and I began to wonder if one day this is in fact the man I might marry. I felt the same feelings of love I had done shortly before the incident that started all of this. Fast forward to this past Sunday. We were in bed chilling, I was studying, and he was half on YouTube, half on his phone. I asked him who he was texting since he was distracted whenever I asked him a question. It was a female friend named Celia, who, while I know of the entirety of our relationship, I had never had a chance to meet properly one-on-one. She was at some party where I was invited with my boyfriend, but she wasn't very social with me nor him. I asked what they were talking about, just news, catching up. She never sat quite well with me because despite being in regular contact with my boyfriend, she always initiated, I never had a full picture of who she was despite knowing all of my boyfriend's other friends, male and female. She also was someone he had only met once he moved to Germany, meaning he had only known her for 4 months longer than he knew me. I asked my boyfriend to explain to me more thoroughly their relationship because I suddenly felt the same anxiety I had in my previous relationship with rampant cheating and wanted to communicate this with him for reassurance. He said she was just a friend, nothing more, nothing less. Did you ever have anything with her before meeting me? He swore up and down that there was never anything non-platonic. I asked to see his phone so I could read his messages and only scrolled superficially to see how often I was mentioned and if there was anything inappropriate emoji and picture-wise. They are both French and I don't speak French. Bear in mind, he dictated the scrolling and refused to let me hold the phone, adding once we reached the beginning of the messages, "This was before I met you." Okay, that was a little strange of a response if nothing sexual happened before meeting me. 2 days later, I still wasn't satisfied with the answer and asked him after work if I could really see his conversation with her. He reluctantly gave me his phone and I began trying my best to read French. Almost all the conversations were initiated by her. She called him my little Tom, ma petite Tom. And while she was still living in the same town, she had recently moved to another city, she offered to hang out with him several times, but he refused because he was already doing something with me. He mentioned me by name. However, he never fully put an end to their conversation and humored her conversation starters, including the ones where she was thinking of you, etc. The 1-year anniversary of brunch together. My boyfriend kept saying it was innocent what she was doing and that it's normal in France for pet names. However, the messages did not go all the way back before he met me this time. They stopped a few months after he and I were a couple. I asked him what happened to the rest. Maybe WhatsApp deleted them when I got a new phone. Yeah, that's how WhatsApp works. I called BS and said all their messages were still on there and that he had the same phone since I knew him. Maybe the archives messed up. I told him I didn't believe him. Okay, I had something with her. I couldn't stop crying. This time, I reread their messages more thoroughly and demanded he translate what I couldn't. He went to her for relationship advice after we had our first fight. But of course, he deleted the actual conversation about this with her, and I was only able to infer this from the conversations that happened afterward. This was some girl he was effing for 2.5 months before he met me, and now claimed was so nice that it justified being her friend for the entirety of our relationship and then lying about it too. She was close enough to turn to her for relationship advice. He never once mentioned this to me despite talking about her to me. I told him whenever I turned to Reddit or my best friends from high school about our problems. He insisted she was just nice and that they had good conversations and that in this moment of despair, he turned to her for advice. I felt like that was a breach of privacy. Ask close friends, family, but not the same girl you had sex with and then dumped to date me. However, he said he never ever had feelings for her and that she meant nothing compared to me, the classic line. A year ago, I asked him if he was in regular touch with anyone he was once sexually involved with, and he said no. He was crying, but I didn't care. He lied to me until the very end of our relationship, claiming he didn't tell me because he was afraid I would dump him. Maybe because people who have to hide things from their partner are doing things they shouldn't be doing? Maybe. He was making grand professions of love and begging me to stay. I asked to clarify why she was so nice to justify being her friend behind my back, and he said they had an interesting conversation about politics, considering I told him a few weeks ago that we never have serious conversations anymore. Then I read in one of his messages that he never had problems having sex with her because, paraphrasing, she moved the right way, touched him the right way, etc., so that climaxing was never a problem. He had told me once the exact same thing in English. I felt like their intimacy as friends wasn't based on some deep personal connection, but rather on the fact that for 2 months they effed like bunnies. So I packed up my stuff and left, and I am now crying my eyes out because I do not know what hurts more. Seeing my boyfriend lie to me because he was afraid of losing me, despite begging and promising to be fully honest, or knowing that in the end he prioritized her feelings and friendship than my desire to be respected and treated with honesty. I really effing loved this guy, but feel so betrayed knowing he was lying to me for our entire relationship. Had he brought it up sooner, I would have been open to meeting her and understanding their friendship, but if it's something to be hidden and lied about, it was never something appropriate to continue in the first place. Well, OP, it sucks that you're crying about this scumbag because you should actually be celebrating that you dodged a huge bullet. Hopefully you get there soon so you can move on. So here's wishing you the best in the future, OP, and in your future relationships. Take care and thank you for sharing. Now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance and it's by user B-Rick. Boss told me to gain some perspective, so I did and found a new job. I worked as a systems administrator for an IT firm. I got tired of dealing with abusive and angry clients for 5 years. I got tired of being micromanaged and exploited. I got tired of being talked down to like I was a child anytime the slightest little mistake was made. When my boss learned I was no longer going to work in another market 3 days a week like I originally planned and he had no one else because no one wanted to deal with the jerks in that market, he spent an hour lecturing me on taking a long, hard look at myself. He said that he was concerned about my reliability after refusing to spend 3 hours a day commuting to the other market on top of my workday. If I can't rely on you to work in the other market, then I just don't know if you have much of a future with this company. I think you need to take a long, hard look at yourself and gain some perspective. You know what? You're absolutely right. 2 weeks later, I found a new job and gave my notice. He begged me to stay, offered me more money, etc. This went on for days. I said, no thanks. I finally found that perspective you wanted me to find. Boy, am I glad I did. A new job with a raise and benefits and no stress. The only advice you've ever given me of value. Good luck to you. He let me go a week into my notice. Started the new job, love my new boss and my co-workers. It's been over a year and my former boss hired 6 different people to fill my spot. Each lasted 1 to 2 months before they left. Wonder why that is. Maybe he needs to gain some perspective on how to run a company and treat people. Maybe he does, OP, but the thing is, he's a boss and not a leader. There's a big difference. Anyways, good job, OP, and congratulations on your new job. Take care and thank you for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.